Hi everyone, I'm Gladys. Thank you, Akash, for the kind introduction. The title of today's talk is Getting into a Master's Degree in Engineering in the United States, the Proven Method. This method worked for me even though I had a non-technical background, and please note that this session is recorded. This is the outline today. First, I will talk a bit about myself. I graduated from MBBS in the University of Hong Kong in 2019. I then worked as a medical doctor for 14 months in Hong Kong before starting my biomedical engineering master's degree at Carnegie Mellon University. In the summer of my master's degree, I did a software engineer internship. I graduated this month and will start working full-time as a software engineer next month. Biomedical engineering at Carnegie Mellon let me live my teenage dream of becoming an engineer after so many years. Just last week, I did another sharing to current MBBS students in my university of how I transitioned from MBBS to my master's degree, and I invite you to take a look at the YouTube recording. What applicants are preferred by the admission committee? I'll now share the preference hierarchy. Applicants that have a high chance of succeeding in a program academically are actually not the most preferred ones. The most preferred ones are those that are likely to succeed in the field of engineering and become an outstanding alumnus that can attract even more students to the school. And succeeding in the field may mean becoming a great researcher, innovator, entrepreneur, or a leader of a large corporation, etc. Through your application, you must convince the admission committee that you're among the most preferred candidates. I will now share the preparation I did for a technical graduate degree during the 6-year MBBS program. My way of learning medicine is not mainstream. The book I circled in white on the left is the only one here I did not read most of the chapters. For the 3 books circled in red, I read most of the chapters, and for the others, I read from cover to cover. I completely read so many textbooks because I thought I needed to follow an author's discussion in his sequence to fully understand what he has to teach me. Later, I will explain why I insisted on thorough learning and how it helped me get into engineering. Every summer holiday, I made an effort to try out new things in order to explore my interests comprehensively. I participated in a synthetic biology competition called the IGEM and also did 2 research attachments in molecular biology in my home university. None of them were super successful, but from them I understood that my passion lied somewhere outside of wet lab. After the research attachment in year 3 summer, I decided to take a break from research and read new books instead. I read this new book in year 4, Fundamentals of Brain Network Analysis, which discussed using graph theory to analyze the structural and functional brain network. This eventually landed me a life-changing opportunity. I had the idea to email the book authors asking for a summer research opportunity at their labs. One of them replied. He was Professor Alex Farnito from Monash University, which is in Australia. And so I got the opportunity to do computational research in Professor Farnito's lab. His photo is on the left. On the right is Dr. Ben Foucher. He was a postdoc in the lab and he was my main research supervisor. After the attachment, he moved to University of Sydney to become a tenured lecturer there. I made a huge effort to prepare for the summer research at Monash because I recognized that it was a rare opportunity and I wanted to make good use of it. I also knew that my future career will also depend on its success. So I asked the postdoc what I needed to learn. He suggested me to learn MATLAB. So I picked up coding for the first time in the fourth year of my university study. I learned MATLAB through a textbook shown here, and then I also practiced actual coding. I tried filling my knowledge gaps since the Monash professor wrote a book on the analysis of brain connections using graph theory. I figured that it was his research interest. However, I did not know enough about graph theory, so I read another book on it called Networks: An Introduction. I soon found that graph theory depended on linear algebra, so I attempted to learn it through an MIT Open course. The summer research at Monash finally arrived. Under the guidance of Dr. Ben Fulcher, I had great research results. I analyzed the relationship between the correlation of gene expression and separation distance in the developing mouse brain. After the summer, I went back to MBBS, and I continued working on a project with the Monash lab. I also picked up technical skills as needed. When reading computational research papers, I found I lacked the mathematical background to understand them fully. So I learned single variable calculus from an MIT Open course. I also thought I did not really know enough about computer science. So I took a computer science online course called CS50 offered by Harvard University. I went to Australia again to continue the research in my final year elective and eventually republished a paper 1 year ago. I got some insight from my preparation for grad school. First, thorough learning is very important, especially things outside the formal curriculum, because they will support your attempts to properly explore your career interests. I studied many medical textbooks on my own, and from them I had a deep understanding of neuroscience, which helped me when I did a literature review for the neuroscience research at Monash University. Solid knowledge is a foundation for innovation. Before innovating, one must know the current knowledge and tools available, so you know where to start. Houses with weak foundations won't stand the test of time. The habit of thorough learning gives you the confidence to pick up new skills by yourself. This self-learning ability will be useful whenever you do any innovation or you want to switch any career. Second, actively think about your career path and what interests you. Also keep an eye out for opportunities to explore your passion. Last but not least, do not be afraid of setbacks. Although I did not really get good research output from the attachments I did in year 1 to 3 summer, they motivated me to think out of the box and try innovating in another way. Doing wet lab in Hong Kong did not really work out for me, so I tried computational research in Australia. The setbacks taught me to always focus on finding solutions. They also reduced the uncertainty in the path I should pursue because they forced me to have a clear understanding of what I like and don't like. Also, it's never too late to start if you have determination. I only started coding and studying college math at 22 years old, but still got into a technical master's degree. Now, I will discuss how to choose the suitable master's program. There are several factors you should pay attention to when choosing a master's program. Before anything else, check whether you meet the entry requirement, because schools generally take them very seriously. Make sure your bachelor's degree subject is among those accepted. If they have an undergraduate course requirement, check if you have taken them. There may be some exceptions where a candidate not fulfilling all requirements can be admitted but need to make up for the requirements during the graduate degree. Second, have a look at the curriculum focus. The program may be primarily research-based or taught. Some programs are project-based, like the MS in Robotic Systems Development at CMU. Third, pay attention to the expertise of the school. The rule of thumb is to apply to schools with strong research output in the subject you're interested in. Also, take note of the program duration. Research-based programs are usually longer than top programs. Availability of suitable research supervisor is important if you want to do a research-based master's degree. To obtain information about the master's program, you can check the program website. There you will find the graduating requirements, graduate student handbook, and a course list. You can also talk to current students or alumni of the programs for insider information about student opportunities and curriculum rigor. Now let's see how to write a successful statement of purpose. In the statement, the admission committee wants to see that you're engaged in academic and professional activities that demonstrate your good knowledge foundation and your commitment towards excelling in the field. They want to see big ideas and huge ambitions from you. They also want to see a compelling reason why doing the graduate degree will help you achieve your goals. Here is how you can structure your statement of purpose. Start with an introduction paragraph. Then, use several paragraphs to discuss relevant academic and professional activities. Go on to convince them why the master's program is a great fit for you. Next, discuss why you are confident in succeeding in the studies. Lastly, tell the admission committee your career goals and ambition, and how the program helps you achieve them. The introduction paragraph can be brief. Give a summary of your career goal and state that a graduate education is an important step towards the goal. The following paragraphs would be about your academic and professional activities. Generally, talk about academic before professional experiences. That's because you're applying to an academic degree. Also, your industry experience is probably at least partly based on what you learned in school. Try to describe your activities in chronological order because it's easier to follow that way. It's best if you can structure your whole essay chronologically, actually, from how you developed your interest in freshman year to how you engaged in related activities to pursue them later in your degree. The purpose of describing the activities is to bring out how they helped you acquire skills and enhance your understanding about the field. It's the best if you can discuss what you learned about the latest innovations. For example, if you took a course on prosthesis, you can talk about how control strategies for powered prosthesis were developed to help users avoid obstacles on the ground. You can include any activities related to engineering or science, as long as you can relate the skills or insight acquired to the subject of the degree you're applying to. The stronger the link, the better. Example activities to include are courses and projects you did in school, engineering internships, and other self-learning activities. In the following, I will use excerpts from my own statement of purpose as examples. To elaborate on an activity, first mention the goal. In this project, we aimed to uncover the pattern underlying developing mouse brain gene expression and model it mathematically. Go on to explain what the activity involved. The first sentence here gives the big picture. Encouraged by my supervisors to be an independent thinker, I performed literature review, planned project directions, and carried out the analysis. The second sentence gives the finer detail. We analyzed data from the Allen Institute of Brain Science, which comprised of thousands of genes at multiple time points. Next, discuss the skills you developed from the activity. I wrote, this required me to develop skills in statistical approaches for big neuroscience data and use high-performance computing. Afterwards, write about the concrete result of the activity. I first wrote about the research findings. Our findings showed that brain geometry is a determining factor of gene expression during neurodevelopment, providing a novel insight into the mechanism of brain development. Then I mentioned what we will do with the finding. We are now preparing the manuscript for publication. To make your activity stand out, you can describe any problems encountered and how it was solved and the learnings. In my statement, I told them how the initial analysis did not give interesting results and that we repeated the analysis using a higher resolution data, which gave us good results. This taught me to always interpret analytical results with respect to the data resolution. The next paragraph is about why the master's program is a great fit for you. You could write about how the research interests of professors in that school department align with your own. Give the actual name of the professors and say which field they are experts in, and discuss briefly the recent research breakthroughs that led to published papers. For this, I wrote, Dr. Byron Yu used brain-computer interface to investigate the neural underpinnings of learning. His group recently discovered that learning produced new neural activity that caused new behavior, giving us unprecedented insight into this cherished ability of the human brain. Actually, you can mention more than one professor here. You could say how the curriculum focus matches your goals. For example, you're interested in certain specialization areas they offer, or the way the curriculum is structured help you gain industry experience. Some programs have the co-op option in which students are placed in companies to work for some time. Other master's programs are project-based. By working on actual company-sponsored R&D projects, students will gain the know-how of finding solutions and innovating in the industry context. You can also briefly describe any official research or teaching collaboration with other departments and how these will result in your broader understanding of the subject. This is an example of how a master's program can have specialization areas. At the master program in mechanical engineering offered by Johns Hopkins University, students can choose to concentrate their courses in certain specializations. These are the specializations available. You can write which one you want to focus on in your study. This shows you looked into the program in detail. In the next part of your essay, tell the admission committee why you're confident in succeeding in the studies. To be more persuasive, you need to give evidence to support your statements. Write about your commitment to learning, backed up by previous initiatives you took to acquire related knowledge. Also write how your background gives you the necessary foundation to excel in the degree program, citing your training in school and at work. Here you can also address any gaps in your background and convince them that you have taken action to completely fill the gap. In my own statement, I acknowledged I had a lack of undergraduate engineering and math classes, but my ability to learn new things myself and the actions I took to actually learn them will compensate for the deficiency. You should also make a conscious effort to package yourself and stand out in a different way. If you have a background that is slightly different from most applicants, use that to your advantage. As mentioned, I had a medical background. Although I was applying for a biomedical engineering degree, I thought I would be less technical than most applicants. So I framed my background in another way. I wrote, my experience in medicine is greatly beneficial for neuroengineering research, as I have a clear understanding of the needs of patients and the process of clinical care. This will help me identify promising research topics that have great translational potential. This would convince the admission committee not to directly compare me with other applicants with a technical background. Moreover, I tell them how I can contribute to the field with my unique expertise. In the last paragraph, you will impress the admission committee with your career goals and big ideas. Relate your huge ambition to your prior experiences. This is what I wrote. I envision that one day the brain can control an exoskeleton that easily moves the human body around as well as do more great things by harnessing the incredible memory and processing speed of computers. Indeed, this is a long-term vision that cannot be achieved by any single person. But what can be more gratifying than patients thanking you for your work in helping them regain a new life? You can also show that you pay attention to the field by mentioning recent breakthroughs by big name players. For instance, if you're applying for a degree in aeronautical engineering, you can write about the recent Blue Origin launch of the first fully automated flight with civilian astronauts. In this paragraph, emphasize how the program will help you achieve your goals. You can learn about the subject in depth, gain hands-on experience, and build on your background knowledge. Several points to keep in mind for the statement of purpose. You need to create a compelling and coherent story of what shaped you to become who you are today and where you want to be in the future. Structuring your essay chronologically will make the story easier to follow. You should package your experiences so that they attest to the image you want to create. Keep in mind the preference hierarchy and create an image of the top applicant. Again, always use evidence to back up your statements because the admission committee needs them to support their decision to give you an offer. Now, let's discuss how to create an attractive resume. The resume should consist of the following sections: education, experience, activities, and skills in this order. It's best to keep your resume at one page. The maximum would be 2 pages. Here is an example of how education and experience sections can look like. This is the version of the resume I submitted for graduate school. Under education, put down the name of your bachelor's degree, followed by honors and relevant coursework. I put in a computer science online course I took in the coursework section, but I did that because I did not have any official courses in math or engineering from my undergraduate degree. For your resume, please put the courses you took in your school, not online courses. Here are the activities and skills sections. From the previous and current slides, you would notice that I wrote descriptions under each of my experience and activity. Here, let us go into how the descriptions should be like. They should emphasize both what you did and the results. This is a description in the current version of my resume about the software engineer internship I did in the last summer. Developed software algorithms to auto-detect the shape of dental arch and the occlusal planes from CT scans, enabling dental surgeons to plan a dental implant using the company's robotic system more efficiently. In the description, also prioritize the more relevant project in each experience or activity. For instance, mention an R&D engineering project before a price analysis you did during the internship. Recommendation letter is also a major part of your application. Let's talk about it now. Ideally, you should ask for a recommendation letter from a professor or industry supervisor who supervised you on a substantial project related to the master's degree subject, knows you well, and can attest to your ability in academic or industry work and your own good personal qualities. My recommendation letters were from the professor and postdoc at Monash and also a professor from my home university. To ensure a smooth application, please identify potential recommenders early and make sure they know the deadlines of submission. It is important to keep track of their submissions and politely remind them if they're missing any submission and the deadline is close. Also, remember to waive your right to review the recommendation letter. Most application has an additional information section. This section is usually optional. It is used for explaining any deficiencies in your application or background and providing additional description of your background that you did not have space to include in the statement of purpose. Here are examples of what you can write. The Carnegie Mellon application asked for math GPA, but I did not have one. So I wrote this. My medical degree did not allow me to take math courses, and hence my inability to provide a math GPA. However, I have much more math knowledge than a typical medical doctor because of my self-initiated extracurricular learning. I also provided more information about my background. I wrote, on top of studying lecture notes of the medical curriculum, I read many medical textbooks from cover to cover, especially those of basic medical science. I also took the time to study neuroscience, coding, and mathematics. You can also write about additional projects you did. In my case, I wrote, apart from the neuroscience project mentioned in the statement of purpose, I initiated my second ongoing project of writing a review article on connectome and schizophrenia with Professor Alex Fornito. Thank you all for listening. I wrote a new book about the lessons I learned from my journey of switching from medicine to engineering. Please check it out on Amazon, and also please connect with me on LinkedIn. That's all I have to say, and I'm happy to take questions now.